The title of this book, The Spiritual Man. The Spiritual Man. It is written by our beloved brother, Watchman Nee. We are now in part 6 of this great book. Part 6, Walking After the Spirit. Part 6, Walking After the Spirit. Chapter 1 of this part 6. Chapter 1, The Danger of Spiritual Life. The danger of spiritual life. Nothing is more vital to the Christian life than to walk daily after the Spirit. It is this that maintains the Christian in a constant spiritual state. Deliver him from the power of the flesh, assist him to obey God's will, always, and shield him from the assault of Satan. Now that we understand the operation of our spirit, we must immediately walk by it. This is a moment by moment effort from which there can be no relaxing. In these days, we must be currently alert to the peril of the receiving the teaching of the Holy Spirit while subsequently rejecting his leading. On this very point, have many saints stumbled and fallen. To acquire teaching alone is not sufficient. We must also accept the leading. We should not be content with just spiritual knowledge, but treasure as well the walk after the Spirit. Often, we hear people drop the word, the way of the cross, but what is this way after all? It is in reality nothing else but walking by the Spirit. Since to walk in that fashion necessitate the committing of our idea, which and thought to death, exclusively following the Spirit's intuition and revelation, demand our bearing the cross daily. All spiritual believers knew something of the operation of the Spirit. Their experience of it, however, is often sporadic because they have not fully understood all the law which govern its functioning. But with their intuition well developed, they could walk steadily after the Spirit without any interference from the outside. And note, all that is outside the Spirit is considered the outside rim. But not having assimilated the law of the Spirit, they interpret life in the Spirit as oscillatory, devoid to whole, and arduous to practice. Many are determined to heed God's will and to follow the leading of the Holy Spirit, but they lack a positive forward propelling heart because they are not sure if the guidance of their intuition is wholly dependable. They have yet to learn to understand the indication of their intuition as to whether to advance or to stay. They are additionally ignorant of what the normal state of the Spirit is and are thus incapacitated from being led continually by it. Secondly, their inner man loses its power to operate for the simple reason that they do not know how to keep it in a right condition. Third, they sometimes do experience revelation in their intuition. They nevertheless wonder why it is, when they are earnestly seeking, that at times their intuition does receive revelation, but at other time does not. This of, this of course is due to the fact that on some occasion they unconsciously walk according to the law of the spirit and so obtain revelation, whereas at other moments, thought asking, they are not asking according to this law and therefore do not secure any revelation. Where were they to walk by the law of the Spirit continually rather than unconsciously, following immediately, following intermittently, they could always receive the revelation. Unfortunately, they are unaware of this possibility. It is nonetheless certain that for us to consistently experience revelation, we must know the law of the Spirit and the will of God and must do the things which please Him. Since all movement in the Spirit are meaningful, we need to learn their import if we wish to walk faithfully. Understanding the law of the Spirit is therefore indispensable. There are countless Christians who consider the occasional working of the Holy Spirit in their spirit to be the most sublime of their life experiences. They do not expect to have such an experience daily because they surmise that such a special event could happen but a few times in life. Were they to live by the Spirit according to its law, however, they will discover that these are everyday occurrence. What they deem extraordinary, something one cannot permanently sustain, it's actually the ordinary daily experience of believer. Extraordinary indeed if believer should desert this ordinary life, experience and abide in darkness. Suppose you have received a certain thought. Are you able to discern whether this comes from our spirit or from our soul? Some thought burn in the spirit while other blaze in the soul. Believer how to understand how the various parts of their being operate, or they shall not be able to distinguish the spiritual from the soulical. When thinking, they should recognize the source of their thought. In feeling, they should detect the direction from which such feeling comes. And in working, they should be clear as to what strength they use. Only thus can they follow the Spirit. We knew our soul provides us with self-consciousness. One aspect of self-consciousness is self-examination. This is most harmful since it causes us to focus upon ourselves and thereby enhance the growth of self-life. How often self-exaltation and pride are the consequences of such self-examination. But there is a kind of analysis of incalculable help to the spiritual pilgrimage. Without it, we are incompetent to know who we really are and what we are following. Harmful self-examination revolves around one's success or defeat. stimulating attitude of self-pride or self-pity. Profitable analysis search only the source of one's thought, feeling or desire. God wish us to be delivered from self-consciousness, but at the same time, He certainly does not intend for us to live on earth as people without intelligent awareness. We must not be overly self-conscious, yet we must apprehend the true condition of all our inward part through the knowledge accorded us by the Holy Spirit. It is positively necessary for us to search out our activity with our heart. Many regenerated believers seem unconscious of possessing a spirit. Third, they do have one. They simply are not conscious of it. Perhaps they have spiritual sense, but they do not realize such sense arise from the Spirit. What every truly born-again person should rely on for living is the life of the Spirit. If we are willing to be taught, we shall know what is our spiritual sense. One thing is unmistakable. The soul is affected by outside influence, but not the spirit. For example, when the soul is provided with beautiful scenery, serene nature, inspiring music, or many other phenomena pertaining to the external world, it can be moved instantly and respond strongly. Not so the spirit. If the spirit of believer is folded with the power of the Holy Spirit, it is independent of the soul. Unlike the latter, the spirit does not require outside stimuli by which to be activated, but is able to be active on its own initiative. It can move under any circumstances. Hence, those who are genuinely spiritual can be active whether or not their soul has feeling, or their body has strength. This one live by the ever active spirit. Now, as a matter of fact, the sense of the soul and the intuition of the spirit are distantly opposite. Nevertheless, occasionally they appear to be quite similar. Their similarity can be so close as to confuse Christians. Should they be hasty to move, they will not easily escape being deceived at this time of similarity. Yet if they will wait patiently and test the source of their feeling again and again, they will be told the real source by the Holy Spirit at the right hour. In walking after the Spirit, we must avoid all haste. Soulish Christians generally bend to certain direction. Most of them learn either toward emotion or toward reason. Now, when these people become spiritual, they tend to fall toward the opposite extreme from what they formerly were. Emotional person will then be tempted to adopt their own cold reason as the leading of the spirit. Because they appreciate how soulish their former passionate life was, they now mistake their own reasoning to be spiritual. Likewise, those who were rational believers may subsequently accept their passionate feeling to be the leading of the Holy Spirit. These are equally ignorant of the fact that the reversal of position between emotion and reason does not render them a shade less soulish. Let us therefore remember the function of the Spirit. To be led by the Spirit is to follow its intuition. All spiritual knowledge, communion, and conscience come via the intuition.